Hi Year 7s and welcome back to Maths. Today we're talking about decimals. So last week we were focusing on fractions. Today we're going to learn about the basics of decimals and what a decimal is and what the numbers mean. Alrighty, let's get into it. I'm going to put the link of this decimal song video in the description box. It's a fun video. Feel free to watch it if you like. Alright, so at the start of the year, basically, we talked about something called place value, and it's something that you've all done before in primary school, but decimals also have place value as well. I actually showed you this exact same diagram at the start of the year. So if we start on the left-hand side, actually, let me just start again. So here, let's orientate ourselves. We've got our decimal place here in the middle. Everything to the left of it, they are whole numbers. And then everything to the right of the decimal place, they're parts of a number or fractions or decimal fractions. So let's have a look. Let's start on the very left-hand side here. Okay, so hang on. All right, there we go. A decimal is used to separate the whole number from the fraction part of a number. When dealing with decimals, we need to use place value, which we covered before, as I mentioned. Okay, so let's start on the left-hand side. The 6 is in the place value called the thousands column. And then you've got the 9, which is in the hundreds column. There's the first 0 here is in the tens column. And then you've got your 5, which is in the ones column. Then we've got our decimal place. And now we're going into parts of a number. So we start off with our 0 just to the right of the decimal place. That is in the tenths position. So notice how the ending of that word is different to tens. It's tenths. It's got a THS on the end. Everything to the right of the decimal place will end in a THS. And the 7 is in the hundredths place. The 2 is in the thousandths place, and the 8 is in the 10,000ths place. Okay, so you need to be familiar with this terminology, guys. Another way that you can write this decimal is in expanded fractional form. So how that would work is you'd be considering the, it's like the expanded form. So we did this in term 1 as well. So if we were to expand this number out, I've got 6,000 plus 900 plus, there's nothing in the tens place, so I can skip that, plus 5 plus, and now we're getting into the right-hand side of the decimal place, so this is the parts of a number, so these are my fractions. Again, I can skip the 0. The 7 is in the hundredths place, so that's 7 over 100. The 2 is in the thousandths place, so that's 2 over 1,000. And my 8 is in the 10,000ths place. So it's expanded fractional form. So you will be asked to do questions like this. You will be given a decimal and you'll be asked, what is the value of a certain number? In this case, what is the value of the digit 8 in the following numbers? Okay, so if we have a look at this number, we've got 12.85. That is in the first column to the right of the decimal point. That is called the tenths place. So we have 8 tenths. And if we wanted to write that as a fraction, that would be 8 over 10. Nice and easy. Let's try another one. Okay, the 8 now is in a different position. It is it's in the third position to the right of the decimal place. So we know that the first position, that's the tenths column. The second one is the hundredths column, and then you've got the thousandths column. So we've got 8 thousandths, and to write that as a fraction, you go 8 over 1,000. Nice and easy. All right. In this example, we're going to go the other way. So we have a fraction, and now we want to convert back to a decimal. Okay, so with part A, I've got 7 over 10. So I've got 7 tenths. So if I wanted to write this as a decimal, well, I know that the first place value to the right of the decimal point is the tenths column. So that's going to be 0.7. So I've got 7 tenths. Okay, part B, 5 hundredths. So I think it's easy if you write it out in words, if that helps you. 5/100ths. So you know that that's going to equal 0 point something something. Okay. So the first something, this first position is the tenths column, so it's not going to be, the 5's not going to go there. The second position, that's the hundredths column, so the 5 will go there because we have 5/100ths. Okay, part C. This one's a little bit different. If you think back to the 3 types of fractions we learned about last week, we said that there were proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed fractions. So you should know what all of these words mean. This part C, 3 and 17/100, this is an example of a mixed fraction. So by mixed fraction, that means that you've got a fraction which is partially a whole number and then partially a fraction. Okay, so because 3 is a whole number, sorry, I'm going to erase that, it's a bit messy. 3 is a whole number, so 3 is going to go to the left of the decimal place. And it goes in the first position to the left of the decimal place because that's a 1. We've got, 3. It's just 3. Okay, and then we've got 17/100. So 17/100 is equal to 17/100ths. 17/100ths. So we're going to be looking at this column. Sorry, let me backtrack a bit. It is 17/100ths, but we're going to break it up. Okay, so 17/100. Okay, so essentially, yes, we have there's 2 ways you can think about it. Yes, we have 17/100ths. And we know that this column here is the hundredths column. So you can go 3.17. Or you can break this number, 17/100, into, or you've got 10/100 plus 7/100. And 10/100, if we simplify it, is the same as 1/10. So you can also think about it as you having 1/10, which is in this position, tenths, and then 7/100ths. Either way works. Okay, the last type of question that you'll be asked to complete is you'll be asked to arrange a bunch of decimals in ascending or descending order. So I think people are still getting confused between the difference. Ascending is when you go from smallest to largest. Descending, on the other hand, is when you're going from largest to smallest. So you're essentially decreasing. Okay, so first things first, we've got a whole bunch of numbers here. I can see that I've got some starting with a 3. Some of them start with a 7. And some of them start with a 2. Okay, so that number is, it's to the left of the decimal place, so that's a whole number. So the bigger it is, the larger the number is, what am I trying to say? 7 is going to be larger than 2, for example, and 3 is going to be larger than 2 as well. Okay, so I can start off by putting the 2 decimals that start with a 2 towards the left-hand side, because they're my smallest ones, followed by the 3s, and then the 7s. However, I need to now look at each group of decimals. So between 2.73 and 2.37, well, 2.73, I've got 7/10ths as opposed to 3/10ths here. So 2.37 is actually smaller than 2.73. Okay, now let's look at the next group, my 2 decimals starting with a 3. Again, I've got one decimal that has 7/10ths and one with 2/10ths. Now 2 is lower than 7, so 3.27 is smaller than 3.72. Okay, my last group, the decimal starting with 7, it's actually in order already because I've got 7.23 and 7.32. And I've got 2/10 is smaller than 3/10. So it is in order already. And this is the answer. So what I did as a recap is I looked at the numbers, I realized that there were 2 decimals starting with 2s, 2 starting with 3s, 3 starting with 7s. I put them in that order, and then I looked at the specific groups of decimals to make sure that the 2 decimals starting with 2 were in the right order, and etc. Alright, if the question asked for descending order, you would have arranged it in the opposite way. So you would have started with the 7s and worked your way down to the 2s. It is your turn now, boys. So please go to 6A and do the standard or the challenge questions. Please make sure to mark your work, do your notes about mistakes, figure out what went wrong. If you can't figure it out, ask me or ask a classmate, and then upload to the OneNote. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions during the lesson.